Folks, now your price makes no sense. I'll get into that, and then the latest home prices and insights for York Region for week ending October 23, 2024. If I'm working with a seller, one of the most important things they need to know early on in our discussion whether they're going to sell or not is, what's their home going to sell for? That's vital to them making the decision or not whether they're going to sell or not. But it's not just for sellers. When I'm working with buyers and there's a property they're interested in, it's always part of the conversation where they say, Santo, what do you think we can buy this for? Or in other words, what makes sense for this home? Now, whether it's a seller, it's a buyer, when I figure out that price range, and there's a sweet spot of, kind of like low and high, this is the range that this property most likely is going to sell for. When I figure that out, the strategy of what we come in as an offer or what we actually list for, that may change. But we still need to know the sweet spot of what's possible as far as it selling for. There's a low and a high range. And some neighborhoods, some homes are way more easier to price than others. For example, if we're looking at a subdivision and the homes are new-ish, fairly new. I don't mean they got to be brand new, but 10, 15 years, and there hasn't been a lot of rentals done, and there hasn't been a lot of updates, and they're all fairly new. I should say probably less than 10 years. Many of the homes are the same, the lots are the same, and there's lots of activity. That's important. So there's been lots of sales, and there's been homes there are homes currently on the market to compare to. Coming up with a price is relatively easier than, say, a subdivision or an area where the homes are kind of unique. Now, it could be a typical subdivision where the homes aren't so unique originally, but because they're so much older, there's been a ton of rentals, a ton of updates, and the homes become more unique now. It's more difficult to come up with prices in that area. Over the summer, I was working with buyers. We saw a property for sale in a subdivision that is like the that is like the second type of subdivision that I'm talking about. A fairly unique subdivision, large lots, fairly unique homes, no activity. Well, we went to see a property. It was priced at about $3 million. And the price felt high. It was an older home. It had some rentals, needed much more rentals still, needed more landscaping done. It was a large lot. And we looked at this property, and my clients were somewhat interested. Let me put it that way. They weren't in love. Yeah, we want this. They were somewhat interested. For the right price, maybe it's a home they would have gone for. So they asked me what they always ask me, Santo, what makes sense price? Like, is $3 million really what this is going to sell at? Because that's about what it was listed at. And so I did my research, and I shared it with my buyer clients, and we concluded that they're off. They're off maybe by almost $500,000 in price. And so they're thinking about this home. If we could actually get it for that price, and then they did their rentals, it would bring them up to where their budget, and they'd have a home they'd be very happy with. But there's a lot of thought that goes into this, and they were about to go on vacation, so we kind of put pause, and they were going to be thinking about this while they're on vacation. While they're on vacation, another property in the same subdivision came up for sale for the exact same price that the first one was listed at. However, that's where the similarities end. It was the same price, but in a better part of the subdivision, a larger lot, and it was a much newer custom home versus the first one, which was an older that had some rentals done. This was a custom home, larger lot, a better part of the subdivision, and it was for sale for the exact same price, about $3 million. I sent the listing to my clients who were on vacation, and they liked it. And they said, okay, let's set up a time when we come back to view it. And that's what I did. I booked a showing. Within a few days, the agent messages me saying, we have an offer. I let my clients know they're on vacation. They're not going to spend $3 million on a property without seeing it. So we basically had to wait to see what happens with that offer. And my clients had a few more days to come back from their vacation. And the property ended up selling for fairly close to what it was listed at. So this is now a much superior home to the one we saw for about 3 that we were thinking 2.5 or so made sense. Well, now that 2.5 is even lower. Now compared to this one that sold, 2.5 doesn't make sense anymore. And so I'm speaking to that agent of the first house saying, listen, this home here sold. Your price makes no sense right now. I said it a lot more politely than that, but the price made no sense. And the agent's attitude was, yeah, I can see it, and they're kind of stumbling on their words. They're not sure what to say. I did speak with that agent, though, before this home went up for sale, the second one, when we first saw the home, and her attitude was a bit more arrogant. Well, we've got this, we got that, we got all these features. And I go, yeah, I know the features, but there's very little to compare it to. Very few activity, very few properties being sold, really nothing similar to it for sale in the subdivision. And her attitude was, that's the price, we're going to try it. You're not going to find this home anywhere else. Well, now something sold superior for the price she was listed at. Her arguments don't hold any water. But they're not budging. They're not budging in price. And here's where I'm like, does it even make, do you understand what's happening? Does the seller understand what's happening in their environment? Their price, it didn't really make sense when it first came out. And if you're pricing a home and you're going on the market, folks, really this centers around if you're serious about selling, not if you're looking for that one buyer that's not prepared to do any research, and their realtor's not prepared to do any research, and they have an unlimited budget to give you whatever you want. If you're looking for that one buyer like that, good luck. I don't consider that a serious seller. If you're a serious seller, your initial price, it has to be focused on, will it make sense to a buyer? Because if that price doesn't make sense to a buyer, you're going to have a hard time selling. But now that there's even more evidence in your neighborhood, you can't be just, closing your eyes and oblivious to what's happening in your environment. You need to pivot quickly because your price makes even less sense now that there's some activity in the area. You are a product of your environment, whether you like it or not. So if you are a serious serious seller, there's that sweet spot of what, the high and low that makes sense. And it needs to be backed up with evidence, because your realtor is going to need to know that in order to talk to other realtors. Why does that price make sense? And you'll know. But you got to be in tune all the time with what's happening in your neighborhood, because prices are going to change. When back, little bit history, going back if a little while ago, as prices were going up, sellers knew exactly what was happening. And they knew, if, I'm priced at this price, hey, my neighbor's house just sold a little bit more, we're bringing our price up. You were quick to increase your prices. You still need to be in tune with what's happening in your neighborhood, but your prices may be going the other way in some instances, and you need to adapt if you actually want to sell. But this also goes for buyers. If you're looking for that one seller that's going to give the property away, and you're always going to be priced, 30-40% lower than whatever the list price is because that's your game plan, well, you're not a serious buyer either. You do need to know what makes sense, what's the sweet spot. So if you seriously want to buy or you seriously want to sell, pricing is one of the most important pieces of information for a successful transaction. If you feel this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. And if you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. There's a link up here to my calendar, another one below this video in the description. Click on one of those links, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. York Region detached properties only. We're going to be focused on Vaughan, Markham, Richmond Hill. These are average sold prices from 1 week to the week we are now. Average prices went up in these three cities. We're going to start off with Vaughan. Detached properties for week ending October 23rd, 28 detached properties were sold. 4 sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price, $1,674,000. Average sold price has been jumping up and down on a weekly basis. Now, the lower sales are, the more the peaks and valleys are affected when it comes to average sold price. 1,674 is 4% higher than where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 3% lower. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. And it kind of looks like since the middle of September, we are now second half towards the end of October, October 23rd, average prices and median prices have been trending down. 28 were sold. 29% of those sold at list price or more. Listings have been coming down, but up from the previous couple of weeks now. Active listings did come up a little bit. We now have 526 active, available for sale, detached properties in Vaughan. I'm going to go back one slide. 28 were sold, but there are 526 available for sale to choose from. Months of inventory sitting at 4.3 months of inventory, pretty much right in the middle of what we would consider a balanced market. That's Vaughan. Here's Richmond Hill. Sales over the course of the fall season looks like they've been trending up. 29 detached properties were sold for week ending October 23rd. 9 of those were at $2 million or more. 9 is a big week. The last time we had 9 or more, June 19th, we had 10. So most of the summer, we never hit as high as 9. 4, 5, and 6 is more normal. 9, it's a busier week for $2 million or more property. Average sold price up quite a bit to $1,889,000. 1,889 is 5% lower than where we were a year ago. The median price is 2% lower. The dotted line gradually kind of looks like over since the middle of September, average price and median price may be looking to be trending upwards. 29 were sold, 21% sold at list price or more. Listings have been trending down, although they're up from the previous week. Active listings kind of flat, but did come down a little bit the week that we're in now. And months of inventory, pretty clear since the middle end of September. Months of inventory has been trending down. We're now sitting at 3.5 months of inventory. So for Richmond Hill, yeah, we're in a balanced market, which is between 3 to 5 months of inventory, but we're in the bottom end of the balanced market. Here's Markham. 29 detached properties were sold. That's by 2, the biggest week. It's not a lot. I mean, were two higher than the biggest week that we've had so far in the fall market, but 29 were sold. 7 of those were at $2 million or more, which is one of our bigger weeks as far as property selling at $2 million or more. Average sold price up from the previous week to $1,708,000. 1708 is 2% higher than where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 4% lower. Looks like average price overall and median price has been trending down. 29 were sold, more than half, 52% sold at list price or more. Listings have been trending down. Active listings, pretty much the same over the last 4 or 5 weeks, but from one week to the next to where we are now, they did come down over the previous week. And months of inventory sitting at 3.2 months of inventory. Also similar to Richmond Hill, it's at the bottom end of a balanced market, top end of a seller's market. Here's a quick summary. In most cases, you will experience a balanced market, but they're so close to the between 3 to 5 months or under 3 months that in some areas, yeah, there's going to be a seller's market, especially if it's a desirable property, especially if it's priced well. There's going to be buyers competing and push the price up a little bit. In other areas, it's the other way. It's the sellers competing with other sellers, bringing prices down. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.